to get everything set up the right way. I'm recording this mainly for later, but I thought, hey, jump on here and share a great moment. Carolyn and I are able to get away this just for a couple of days. Now I'm having an issue. I've always got these issues with trying to, I don't go live enough. I think that's what it is. But here we are. And you're looking at, I think, Mount LeConte. I've always had a hard time determining what mountain that is. And I think last time we were doing this, I came to the conclusion it was Mount LeConte, but I'm not so sure that's the case because I've stared at a bunch of maps since then. You guys be sure to let me know how the stream is going and stuff like that. I want to make sure. It'll be just a few more moments here. I'm trying to get everything set up with this phone. I have never streamed the right way. Picture's a little crooked. It's because this stand is one of those Walmart deals. There we go. It's a great shot there. I just wanted to share this fantastic scene here from the Park Vista Hotel in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Been coming to Gatlinburg my whole life. I wouldn't say it's my favorite destination all the time, but it's very nostalgic. And if I need to get away to charge my batteries, and it's not necessarily a vacation, but a working getaway. I actually worked the day the way I always work, a full day, but I did so in the car. Carolyn drove, like she always drives, and managed to get a lot done in a short amount of time. And then, of course, you're up here, you can get away, get some fresh air and just kind of charge your batteries. And then you come back towards the end of the week, Saturday, and you're ready to go for the next week. It's just good stuff. So I want to welcome you guys here, and we can chat it up and talk about the amazing Smoky Mountains. I'm going to step away for just a moment here and set something else up. This is like a spontaneous live stream. I didn't set anything up. I don't even think I turned on the monetization. So, hey, feel free to jump in there and with the super chat. But I'm going to set up my laptop. By the way, thanks, guys, for signing in, checking this out. I'm going to try to turn the camera a little bit here and just give you just a few more, just kind of an understanding of what we're looking at today. So not only have I been coming to Gatlinburg since I was, elementary school, for this and that. Mainly when I was younger, it was like church youth trips and stuff like that. We would come to Gatlinburg. As I got older, it was just, someplace that you'd go to vacation occasionally. And so, but it's always special now because of how nostalgic it is in our family. More than anything, I wanted you guys to just see this amazing scenery in this moment, capture this moment for you, and share it with you. We literally just walked in the door here at the hotel. And so I'm trying to get everything signed in, my computer signed in to the Wi-Fi. Carolyn and I are always trying to save as much money as we can on any of our trips. But what we have found is brand loyalty is how we save the most amount of money. Brand loyalty is, in other words, you stay with the same brand. Some people, everybody has their brand they prefer. We prefer Hilton. We value their point system. A friend of mine, a very close friend of mine who travels a lot more than I do, he values a different brand. And I love what he had to say about that brand. It's just, we love our brand. One of the reasons why we love him, the Hilton, and again, I'm not sponsored whatsoever, but one of the reasons why we do love the Hilton brand is because of situations like this. Park Vista has not always been owned by Hilton. Park Vista was independently owned, sold to Hilton, and not only did Hilton improve the property greatly. Matter of fact, it's a better property now than it was when it first opened, in my opinion. But you can get to know, I've been coming to Park Vista so long, you get to know, when the best time to come is, the rates the most appealing rates. And we absolutely love the particular room we're in. We stay in this room. There's 2 times a year, once in the summer and once in the winter, when the rates are right in that place where it's just perfect. So you see the shaking there. That's not a local earthquake. That's for me kicking the stand. And I wasn't necessarily expecting a lot of people to show up for the stream, especially unannounced. It's almost like barging into people's day. And so if you'll forgive me, I'm just going to step away for a moment here and just try to get some adjustments made. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience. I've been saying this for like 5 years that one of these days I'm going to get it to where streaming isn't as complicated as it is now. I haven't got there yet. It's still complicated, and like the screen looks tilted to me. For some reason, I'm having a hard time, signing in on my laptop to be able to monitor, all the, anything that's being said in the chat, because it's a lot easier than trying to do it on the phone where I have to keep pushing buttons. I'm trying to do that now, and hopefully I can participate if you have any questions. I'm going to talk just briefly here about the mountains in Gatlinburg, so that when you're visiting Gatlinburg, what to expect. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking up. I want to know exactly that mountain once and for all. I've always been told that it was LeConte, but last time I was looking at Google Earth, I was like, how can that be LeConte? And you would think by this point I would have got a map, and like a regular map, and just looked it up. But it's funny because people, even locals, it always amazed me, like growing up around Chattanooga, how you would ask so many people if they had been to like Rock City, which is iconic for a lot of people, and it was for a long time. Not as much now as it was, in yesteryear. But how many people locally have never been to Rock City? It shocked me, because to me, it's like if it's your local attraction and people are coming from all over the U.S., you should at least know what's going on there. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying. But it's amazing, like locals everywhere a lot of times are oblivious to how amazing their location is, or some of the things that you can go and see and do where you live. And so people locally, when I ask them downstairs from one time to the next, hey, what is that mountain behind the Park Vista or behind the hotel? They don't know, because they grow up here. They don't value it, let's say, as much as somebody like myself who doesn't live here and just blown away by the beauty of these mountains. So I've got Park Vista pulled up now. It's accessed. And when I spin it around, trying to orient the map so I know what I'm looking at, I'm getting at the right heading now. It's kind of weird because when I try to orient with Google Earth, it messes me up because I end up inside of a mountain somehow with the version of Google Earth I'm using. It's a, where you keep it on your computer. It's not an online version. Yeah, that's what it says. It's Mount LeConte. And here's the thing. If you've been watching any of our videos lately, yeah, it's still saying Mount LeConte, and it just about has to be. So at least that far, if you're looking at, if you're looking at your screen, it would be from the far left. Let me try to do it this way. Yeah, that's not gonna work. From that side, 3 peaks in, or the third peak from that side would be, the actual peak would be LeConte. And if you've been watching our videos lately, we've been talking a lot about prominence and elevation because it's been a kind of a fun discussion, debate, whatever you want to call it, when we're talking about different mountains. Because when I make mountains in the Southern Appalachians, these mountains, people from New England, good people, wonderful people, that, the argument is over prominence versus elevation. We had Greg Sladen on the channel for a video, and I've cut that video up into smaller videos to talk about why prominence is important to mountaineers, why it's important, and why elevation doesn't always tell you the whole story about the situation out west. And I've talked about this on my channel before and in live streams, that you can be out west in the U.S. and be at 7,000, 8,000 foot of elevation and not even realize it, because you're not on a mountain. It's just, you're on a raised plateau and it doesn't even feel like a mountain. So elevation doesn't tell the whole story. However, I'm not sure that we're always right about prominence being a feature that defines, well, in fact, I know I'm right, that a mountain's prominence doesn't always define the mountain's significance. When I say mountain, I'm referring to the mountain peak or the summit. And it doesn't necessarily define the significance of a mountain. However, Mount LeConte is a pretty significant mountain on its own. It is, it's just a big monster up there. And it's absolutely beautiful. Still trying to get logged on here into the Wi-Fi so I can actually see comments and things like that to be able to have a discussion and talk about these amazing mountains. All right, Violet Johnson is in the house. It's a little while ago, but just scrolling through any comments I may have missed. Wi-Fi does seem to be problematic today. I see that comment. But those are the only comments I see, so that's fine. I hope we get some other comments and interactions here. I'm going to go ahead and share this stream. I'm going to be on here a little bit longer. But it's always good to see Violet Johnson in the house. Just sharing the images that we're seeing tonight. Carol and I on our getaway, our working getaway, I should say it like that, that's for sure. I know this, that if your channel doesn't live stream a lot, this is typically what happens, is that it's hard to get the information to circulate. For some reason, it was wanting me. What the Facebook anymore, used to, you could do so many things with Facebook as far as getting the word out, announcements, but now they want money. They want you to pay money for every ad, and I can't say I blame them. Everybody wants to make money. But it's just not as convenient as it once was. Twitter's like that too, or X, whatever you call it. It's like, I remember when a blue check mark meant everything, and now it just really just means you're paying the $4.95 a month. I think a lot of people were really hurt over that. So yeah, please forgive me if I miss a comment, if somebody stops by. I think we've had, sorry about that, once again. Hit the little doohickey there. But yeah, forgive me if I don't respond in the chat. I am not able to do that with the setup I've got right now. And Carolyn's kind of getting us unpacked. We literally just walked in the door. And again, this is our favorite room. We won't even come to Gatlinburg if we can't get this room. The only exception to that is I think we came up here on Thanksgiving a few years ago, and we took another, it was the same kind of room, but it was town facing, Gatlinburg facing. I'm not as interested in that. Gatlinburg's great, don't get me wrong, but and the Space Needle is great and all that, but that's just not what. It just doesn't interest me as much as looking at these beautiful mountains. I don't know if this is a actual distinction, but I've always looked at this series of mountains right here as the gateway to the Smokies. And if you're facing the east, maybe the gateway to the highlands of the Appalachians. Maybe that's how you could say it. I don't know. It's all about perspective, right? So let's turn the camera a little bit and get some perspective here as far as what you're looking at locally. Of course, you're looking into the Smokies. I don't think technically where we're standing right now, I don't think this is the Smokies. The line is in Gatlinburg, but I don't know where that line is. But I don't think the Park Vista is a part of that line. Now that rim, it looks like a rim if you notice, like a canyon rim. It's not. It's basically just two different ridge lines that appear to be one ridge line, but it's, I'm talking about in the distance there. Now, I may be wrong, but there in the middle of your screen, if you can see it, let me see. Yeah, in the middle of the screen in the distance, if you'll notice, very, very high mountain. I might be wrong, but that might be Kleeman's Dome, maybe. I might laugh at myself later and say, no way. It does look awful close to be Kleeman's Dome, though. And I'm not sure it's clear enough. It's definitely clear. I'll tell you what not to do. I know you have to take off when you have to take off as far as, when you get to vacation and whatnot. So a lot of times that's summer. You want the best weather, so you line your vacations up for summer. The problem with that and coming to the Smokies is that visibility is terrible in the Smokies. And just to remind you that our winters down here are so nothing. Don't get me wrong, they had a lot of snow here a couple of weeks ago, but it's almost all melted, even with the high elevation. 441, the famous Newfound Gap Road, is open. It was open when we were driving here today from Townsend, from Chattanooga. And so from Townsend all the way in, the roads are great, and they'll remain that way unless we get another snow here. And again, the snow doesn't last. I don't care if they get a foot. It's usually gone off the roads. And remember, they don't salt across 441, or I don't think they do. Most of the park roads now, they don't salt anywhere because they say it's bad for the environment. So, but naturally, the snow just goes away. I might be wrong about them not doing snow removal on 441, though. I don't know. Somebody can weigh in later on the replay and let me know, but I don't think they do. I know Skyline Drive in Virginia was the first. Sorry about that again, guys. Skyline Drive in Virginia was the first road that I had seen where they didn't do any snow removal, any salt, anything. But now you see that everywhere. That's been several years ago when we first started making videos on Skyline Drive. So this region was devastated by forest fires back in 2015, the fall of 2015. And Nathan and I, my son Nathan and I, came up here in 2016, made a video. I hope I'm getting those years right. I think so. But we came back the following spring to make videos, and because it bothered him that a place where we used to bring the family all the time, it just bothered him that the trees and so many things were destroyed, some of the iconic places that we remember. Gatlinburg rebounded quickly, and I don't think it hurt the bottom line. Yes, there was well over billions of dollars were lost, billions of dollars, but it was recovered. And I think that Gatlinburg now is probably it's probably busier than it's ever been. It sort of rebranded a little bit. Early on, somebody can weigh in. I can't remember the original name of Gatlinburg. Gosh, it's just, I'm forgetting. Chestnut Flats, I think, something like that. They rebranded to Gatlinburg, trying to give it a Bavarian feel, like a German feel. That was the whole concept. And so years ago, like 25, 30, 40 years ago, it kind of felt that way. It wasn't, but it just didn't fit. But now they've gotten away from that, except the name, and it's no longer really, you don't think European mountains and whatnot. I think the best thing that they did is sort of let the locals kind of generate what this place is and what it means to them, and that's Appalachia. That the vacation center, vacation nucleus of Appalachia. A rivalry is developing, and I'm enjoying it because, man, rivalries are good for business. They really are. But more importantly, for our conversation, rivalries are good for the consumer because it helps drive down prices, and it really increases the quality of a vacation or a stay, destination, activity. And New England, specifically, let me not say New England here, let me say New Hampshire, specifically New Hampshire, that the White Mountains in New Hampshire are slowly, man, they're not just those mountains way up north now. The tourism industry is booming up there. And there's development happening everywhere. Everywhere we looked around the White Mountains, things were happening. There was a new Hilton property there that wasn't being advertised on the app. it is amazing. It was magnificent. And we got to stay there fairly inexpensive. And I love it that that's happening. First of all, if you've never been to the White Mountains in New Hampshire, you really need to go. It's an entirely different mountain experience. And of course, that rivalry that I'm referring to is like, which mountain chain is better? Where's the better destination? We're better because we have this, or we're better because we have that. That's all fun. Okay, sure. But let me tell you the inside scoop on all that. The inside scoop is it's a different experience. You're getting one thing down here, and I've talked about that ad nauseum in our videos, what you're getting in the South, the Southern Appalachians, when you visit here, vacation here. And you can watch our videos. In fact, I encourage you to watch our videos, especially when you're planning a vacation. You don't have to watch every single second of every video, but you just kind of scroll through them and finding some interesting things that you might want to see and do. We've made over 500 videos for this channel. Well over half of those videos are made about and in the Southern Appalachian Mountains. But on the other end of the mountain chain, in the northern end of the mountain chain, there's an entirely different experience that's waiting for you. It's a little more money up there. Not gonna lie, you're gonna have to spend a little bit more money. I think that'll change too. That's a whole different conversation, but I think that'll change. And so on the northern end, you have a different experience. I'll give you an example. You can rent scooters here and side-by-sides and things like that, and you can drive around. And it's nice. But in the White Mountains, I'm talking about some serious side-by-side off-the-road vehicles that you can rent. It's not a national park, it's a national forest. And it's just a lot, well, it's just friendlier when it comes to rules and regulations about off-road vehicles in the wilderness. I wasn't expecting that. They're sportsman friendly, whether it's hunting, whether it's fishing. I'm not saying that they're more friendlier in that area than they are down here. It's just a lot friendlier than I thought they would be. The people are friendly up there, like they are here. I wasn't expecting that. Yes, they talk a little different. Okay, but not really. Not really. I'll tell you something, though, that was interesting or fascinating to me anyway. It's just hilarious is, you are looking right now, as you gaze up into the mountains, you're looking at mountain peaks or summits. But those of you who, let's call it a saddle, if you will, a mountain pass. They refer to a mountain pass as a notch. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I'd never heard that. I thought that was hysterical, in a good way, though. And so now I've been jokingly, down here in the South, by the way, we call them a mountain gap. But up there, they call them a notch. And I just thought that was wonderful. So now I'm calling all the mountain gaps down here notches just to be obstinate, just to be ridiculous. But no, there's just so much to do up there. Their fall is amazing. Everybody has made a big deal about New England's fall. The leaves, how gorgeous and vibrant the colors are. Yes, and it doesn't disappoint. However, I was going expecting that to be the most amazing thing about it. And I gotta be honest with you, it wasn't. It wasn't even in the top 10 most amazing things about New England, because when it comes to, the leaves changing in the fall in gorgeous colors, I think West Virginia might have them beat. That's just my opinion. But it was everything else. Man, the mountains up there are pretty. They're not as high when it comes to elevation, but they're unique. They're not what we're used to here in the Southern Appalachians. If you are a mountain lover, if you love visiting the Smokies and you love visiting, the Pisgah Mountains, or we would call them the Great Balsam Mountains, rather. If you love that, then you really need to take a few days and go to New Hampshire and Vermont, because Smuggler's Notch in Vermont, or Jay Peak, they are just beautiful, very unique, very different than the mountains that we have here in East Tennessee. And so it's worth your time. Not to mention the fact, if you like seafood, let's talk about that. If you like seafood, your chances are if you fly up there, you're gonna fly into Boston. And so it's nothing to just eat lobster until you've gained 25 pounds in that area. And again, the people are amazing. That's something else that it shouldn't shock me by this point. There are regions where Carol and I will visit and we're like, wow, the people they're just not friendly here. And it's in places that you would never suspect, places that you would think, because regionally maybe they're friendly or known to be friendly, but it's not. There are places in the deep South that I find to be horrendous when it comes to customer service and just a friendly atmosphere. And it would shock people, to say that this particular region, they're just not friendly. But it's true. Maybe a little, I don't want to call it judgmental, because it's worse than that. Because you can be friendly and still be judgmental. But no, it's just, they're just hateful. Whereas there were places around Boston, places in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, it was like you were in the South as far as Southern hospitality, except they have a northern accent, Carolyn became obsessed with counting license plates. That was funny. Like, the license plates game, like, where's everybody from? And when she was counting license plates, at one point, Virginia was in the lead of how many people from Virginia were vacationing up there. But we finally realized that it was car rentals. It wasn't actually vacationers in their car. It was just car rentals like ours. But it shocked me as to how few, they're obviously those states are located closer to New York. They're located closer to the eastern seaboard there. So they get most of their traffic, most of their tourism from the big cities, Boston, New York, and so on. I think the wind just slammed the door here. But yeah, Boston and big population centers. And so it's to be expected that's the population that drives the traffic of the tourism industry there. The Smokies are a little more unique in that regard, because the Smokies are within a day's drive of just about everybody but the New England states, right? So you can be in Mississippi and be here in a day. You can be in Alabama, Florida. You can be from Kentucky, the whole eastern seaboard, Ohio, Michigan, the whole Midwest, the whole Southeast, and get here in time to eat supper, if not by lunch. So, of course, more people visit Gatlinburg, Blue Ridge Parkway, the Smoky Mountains than any other mountain range. But it's almost like I'm on a quest now to get Southerners who we are very proud of our mountains here, as we should be. And they are the best. There's a reason other than just population density as to why 15 million people visit these mountains every single year. There's a reason. They're awesome. They're amazing. They're beautiful. However, that being said, I feel like I'm on this quest to tell Southerners who've grown up with these amazing mountains to say, look, you got to go to New Hampshire and you got to check this out. You're going to spend a little bit more money. You're going to need a couple of extra days. So I'm not saying that you go every year. I'm just saying that, you just skip a couple of times that you go to Gatlinburg, because I know that you guys, if you live within 6 hours of Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, you're coming 2 and 3 and 4 times a year. Don't lie. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying I know you do, because everybody down here does. Everybody down here within 3 to 5, 6 hours of Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, you're here 10 times a year. I know, because I watch the same YouTube channels you do, and I see your comments on those channels the same as you comment on my Smoky Mountains videos. It's hilarious. It's great. And no wonder. These mountains are amazing. So all I'm saying is you skip a couple of years. You skip a quarter of going to, Paula Deen's to eat once or twice. You just say, hey, we're going to hold back on that. And you can find nice, affordable places to stay at in the White Mountains and still have plenty of money to spend and have a couple extra days you're going to need for travel. You don't even have to fly. We flew because the kids are out of the house and we can't. But it would be worth it if you drove from, let's say, and it took you a full day and a night, because that's what it would take you even from Tennessee. I forget how many hours it is to New Hampshire, but it's not a day's drive. I mean, it would be a haul. But it's worth it. It's worth it. And if you trout fish, Orvis, the fly fishing mecca, if you will, Orvis, well, Orvis, their capital, where they got started, the center of fly fishing universe is in Vermont. And this moron here didn't go. Yes, I was tired that day. Carolyn wore us out. She just kept us going 900 miles an hour the entire time we were there. I'm glad she did, because we got to see more of those states than most people do, because she was like, we're going to get every dime out of this. I'm like, yes, ma'am. So I skipped out on Orvis this time. But my point is that if you love trout fishing, fly fishing, you talk about some great fishing and hunting. You can hunt moose up there. There are moose hunts up there. That's nuts to me. That's crazy. I think the last time I saw moose, we were out west, and they're scary. I'm serious. Have you ever seen a moose? Scariest thing in the world is a moose. They're huge. They're like a horse with antlers. In fact, I want to ride one like that dude in one of those Lord of the Rings movies, where he like comes into the palace riding a moose, or a moose-like creature. I'm just saying, New England, give it a try. Now, just across here to the east, I think that's east. I'm pretty sure that's the east. But it's right through there. 441 takes you over to Cherokee, North Carolina. And in Cherokee, they have elk. And those elk are now, well, they're making their way to Tennessee. They're selling their homes in North Carolina, and they want to start afresh here in the volunteer state. They're saying goodbye to their elk brothers and sisters, and they're moving across the mountain. It's slow. It's a slow migration, but it's happening. The National Park Service denies the rumors that elk have been seen at Cades Cove, which again is just right over here. Down that way, well, actually be more that way. But the Park Service has denied those rumors, saying no, there's no elk that have made it all the way down here. I have it from several sources that elk not only have been seen, but now the pictures are starting to circulate. But, I can't tell some of this AI stuff from the real thing, so I don't know. Regardless, they're coming. And it's kind of weird, because over the past 25 or 30 years, elk have been reintroduced in Alabama, Middle Tennessee, not just in North Carolina, but Middle Tennessee. And also Reelfoot Lake, which is middle Tennessee, I guess, compared to the Cumberlands. So you've got elk in the Cumberlands, you've got elk at land between the lake, Alabama. So the Cumberlands, there's like 3 different groups in the Cumberlands. And so eventually, elk are going to be everywhere again, from the way it seems. One of the most controversial discussions is about big cats being in the Appalachian Mountains. Are there big cats here in the Cumberlands or in the Unicoi, Smokies? That's a very, because they're almost fighting words, because people who are positive that they've seen them, and I am positive I have seen a mountain lion over in the Cumberlands on the eastern wall. I mean, where people would argue that it's impossible to see a big cat there. And I'm telling you, I saw a big cat. Even the people that live there think I'm crazy, that live in that area. But I know what I saw. They say, oh, you saw a coyote. I said, folks, coyotes don't get that big. So these are controversial things, because they're fighting words. If you say that you've seen something like that, and the people that are naysayers, but the people who will swear by it, it's just funny. So you guys know I'm not a huge fan of doing product placements. Not product placements, I'm sorry, but product reviews. It just never has really been a big thing on our channel, and they're more of a hassle. They don't really help the channel. I haven't heard a lot of feedback from from you guys letting me know if it's something you enjoy. And so when I don't hear feedback at all and the watch time's really low on them, I just got away from it. However, I was contacted by a trail cam company to review their trail cams. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know, it's not going to get any views, nobody's going to watch this. But then I said, but I want those trail cams. I want to use them. I want to see what they're all about. So they have sent me 3 different types of trail cams. Now, here's the thing. It's too early in the year for me to do that video. And the reason why is because, yes, animals are moving, but, you know, bucks will be losing their antlers here if they haven't already. And so it's kind of boring just to see a bunch of deer. Deer are everywhere now. So I want to get the most amount, I want to be able to capture the most amount of animals on the move as possible, and that would be in the spring and summer. Or probably the fall. I really don't know. But there are 3 types of trail cams. And I can't wait. I'm going to try to get permission to use land that is interesting. And by interesting, I mean something like what you're looking at right now. I don't know what the national parks policies are on trail cams. I bet they don't allow it. But it's like everything else. Sometimes you can get permission to do certain things by talking to the right people and tell them exactly what you want to do it for and filling out the appropriate paperwork, notarized, signed in triplicate, and your blood type. And you can make that happen. It's possible. It can happen. I mean, you could do it without asking, but you know, I don't like to be on any kind of land without knowing I'm allowed to be there. That's the first thing. The second thing is if you're wanting to show interesting places and you set up trail cams and you're not supposed to, well, you're just asking for trouble because the evidence that you were doing something you shouldn't be doing, it's in your video. And I know you guys would never do this, but surely somebody would be like, I'm going to rat this guy out. I was telling Carolyn all the way here that Mount LeConte is one of the most popular mountains in the Smokies. Cleveland's Dome being probably the most popular, but Mount LeConte is all about hiking. I forget how many trails are zigzag across that mountain that you're seeing there. But it's gorgeous. And you can follow LeConte if you go this way. It's not to that mountain right there in front of us, but if you follow the big mountain all the way over, it's not a continuous mountain, but if you keep going to the north, you end up where Mount Gio, or Geo, however you say that. I think it's Geo. Mount Geo and several other 6,000-foot mountains are beautiful country. Supposed to do some hiking at the end of February with the Kilted Adventurer. Give him a shout out. We're going to do some hiking and make some videos. I'm hoping on those trails, we both want to maximize our time and get hiking some places that people are interested in knowing about. One of the most Googled things about the Smoky Mountains is where's the most remote part? And I might make a video about this later, is that the actual information that they give for that isn't accurate because it really depends on what we're calling remote. Are we calling remote what's the farthest away from the road, a trail? And so the answer you often get there isn't satisfying, for one thing. It's probably not entirely accurate. So there's got to be a better way of asking the question that people really want to know is, what's a location here where no one is really going to hear you scream? You know, where do you not want to be when the sun goes down when it comes to how remote a place is? It's not as simple as just opening the map up and placing your finger down in the middle of the map and saying, here, you know, this is the middle of the wilderness, so this is where it's at, because that might be an actual, junction for 10 trails or something, a very popular destination, so it's not remote at all. It's very trafficked. So that's just an interesting concept. Take LeConte right here. I mean, even if you're at the top of LeConte, like I said earlier, it's the third peak there. If you're looking at your screen from the left, as far as the highest point there, even if you're standing right there looking at Gatlinburg from up there, you're in the middle of nowhere, but it won't feel that way if you can see Gatlinburg down below. It doesn't feel that way. You don't feel like you're in the mountains. By the way, going back to what I said earlier when we first started the video about prominence, and we've been talking a lot about that lately, prominence elevation. That's one of my issues with the prominence argument and how much significance to apply to a mountain when it comes to prominence. And a part of the reason why is there's a level of preference there. Because a lot of people that chase prominence, they're chasing this idea of isolated peaks in isolation. And I totally get that, by the way. Totally get it. Because if you look at, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 peaks, but there's all kinds of little, you could call them a knob. That's what they would call it in West Virginia, along that ridge line. And so that's what, I don't want to get all into that, but that's what we were talking about in these past few videos about prominence versus elevation, is that elevation doesn't give you the full story, but prominence helps us describe, a mountain peak in its relationship to other peaks and its relationship to the surrounding terrain features. But a lot of times when you're chasing prominence, you're chasing a particular view type of wide open spaces at the bottom. And it's like that in New England. You have isolated patches of mountains. It's like a little grouping of mountains on an island here and there all over the place. And it's quite nice. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. However, what if you're chasing an experience that is entirely submersive in mountains, where everywhere you look is remote and mountainous? You can find that in the Southern Appalachians to an extent. It's hard on the East Coast, guys. East of the Mississippi, it's hard to feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, completely isolated. Out west, it's a lot easier. But we're not comparing ourselves to the tremendous mountains of Colorado, okay, or Montana, or Canada, and all that, Alaska. No, we're just comparing the one set of Appalachian subranges to another. And so in that regard, I guess I would argue I like to be surrounded completely by mountains and at least get the feeling that I am entirely isolated. By the way, Maine, which I haven't talked a lot about because we didn't get to visit a lot of mountains in Maine. It's a different story in Maine. In Maine, you have this entirely different situation where you really are remote. More remote than anywhere down here. You don't have the mountains that you do in the White Mountains and things like that, but you do have mountains, and some of those, Catan or however you say that, I can't remember how to say that, there are some very significant mountains up there. But we didn't get to explore those or get video, so I didn't, We went to Acadia National Park, which is splendid, that the Appalachian Mountains actually meet the ocean. A lot of people don't know that, but that was neat. Acadia National Park is Blue Ridge Parkway on the ocean. That's the way I would describe it in every possible way. The landscaping, architecture, and by the way, conspiracy or not, Rockefellers, their involvement with the Smoky Mountains, there would be no Smoky Mountains without the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers, his son is who developed, grandson or son, developed or helped develop and purchase the land necessary for Acadia National Park. Also built or had built the carriage roads up there, which are very Blue Ridge Parkway-ish. Another place that, and again, it's expensive. It's not the park itself that's expensive. It's lodging. Lodging's very expensive everywhere around Acadia National Park. But it's one of those, you can only see certain things there. The Appalachian Mountains actually touching the ocean, you can only see that there. And it's quite beautiful. Lots of American history there, lots of early colonial history, lots of early exploration history. Definitely worth a vacation. I would love to recommend doing what Carolyn and I did, which is we tried to cram as much into one getaway, one vacation. And that was the kind of vacation where we turned the phones off. Like I worked today on the way up here, I worked all day. And so it's a getaway, but it's kind of a working vacation, a 2-day kind of deal. Whereas that was the kind of thing where you turn your phone off, and you sort of submerge yourself into the experience. We had a great time. And I would say this, if you happen to be watching and you've never been to the Smokies, never been to the Southern Appalachian Mountains, what's up? Most visited mountain range in the U.S. I think it ranks in the world's most visited mountain subranges. Quite amazing. People associate the Smokies with the mountain subranges in North Carolina, the balsams, the great balsams, craggies, the blacks, all of those. All those mountain subranges people will assume they're all the Smokies. They're not. They're actually subranges within the Southern Appalachian Mountains. Southern Appalachians, it depends on who you ask where they start. Most sources will say they start south of New River, the most ironic name of any river in the world, because it's probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest rivers in the world, but it's called New River because the person who named it didn't get the memo. They actually don't know who named New River. They don't know who named it. They think they have a guy. But yeah, south of New River, the Southern Appalachians, that's where we say they started, which, by the way, the feeders for New River, it's not far from here. About the way a crow flies, 30 minutes the way a crow flies, maybe a little more, maybe an hour and a half from here, but I don't even think it's that far. It's across this chain into North Carolina, but yeah, so New River goes into West Virginia from North Carolina into West Virginia. I think it touches Virginia. Some great, a great hike would be following New River, like one of those 2-month-long hiking things. One of my biggest regrets when I was a young man, regrets now for time wasted in an ill-spent youth, I should say, is not hiking the Appalachian Trail. I could do it now, but I'm not going to take 6 months out of my life or away from my wife to do it. I'm not going to do that. Or my grandkids. Hello. I got grandkids now, man. So I'm not going to do that now, but that would have been a great experience, and did not realize how doable that is. So if you're younger than 30 and still single, that's something that you could do. I watch these guys start these YouTube channels, guys and gals start a YouTube channel they've made up their mind they're going to hike the Appalachian Trail. And they make like 100 videos, they starting with their prep, starting with their training, starting with the type of equipment that they're buying. And then they start, filming, videoing, I should say, their early trips, their early hikes, I should say. The first 3 or 4 weeks on the trail. And then the channel goes away. They stop making videos. And so I can only imagine that they've said, okay, that's enough. That they bailed out. Because it would get exhausting. They say the trip takes about 6 months. That's a long time. I'm going to try something real quick before we sign off here. That mountain peak there in the distance, I would love, right back there, if you guys see it now. That's what I was calling LeConte earlier, but I don't know if that's true. The one in the distance, the peak. Now remember LeConte, or it's not LeConte, I'm sorry, Cleman's Dome. It's called something else now. They changed it, which I think we broke that story. I think we were the first on YouTube to talk about that possible name change years ago. Golly. So when I first started making videos for the channel, 7 or 8 years ago, we talked about how that was potential. It's called Kauai or something like that. They renamed it. They renamed that mountain. And of course, you guys know President Trump renamed the renamed mountain from Denali back to Mount McKinley. I haven't heard any rumors about this one. This one wasn't as controversial, though. I didn't hear anybody really complaining that they had renamed it, this mountain. I have complained about them paying to park on 441. That's ridiculous, but that's for another. I have complained all there is to complain about that. Let's see, let's go back here. Now that I've got it zoomed all the way in. So yeah, that middle peak there is what Google Earth is calling LeConte. They're saying that that is the highest peak there, so that would be LeConte. I don't know how to there we go. It's a different viewpoint. I don't like that as much. There we go. So guys, I appreciate you stopping by to watch, and just wanted to share this hour with you before the sun goes completely down and we lose all of our light. And we might come back and go live tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. It's spontaneous, just getting away, enjoying ourselves, having a great time. And hopefully if you watch this on the replay, leave a comment. Tip me about $500. No, I'm kidding. Tip me 1,000. Anyway, you guys have a great night, and we'll make a video up here for you.